G'day, my name's Chris Walker and today I'd like to talk to you about emotional transparency. Why is it important? Because emotions suck energy and emotions don't often produce sustainable results. To live as nature intended, happy, inspired and in love, we need to be able to see through emotion rather than to trust them. All the emotion in the world produces nothing sustainable. So emotional transparency is really important. So what's behind an emotion? That's for you to find out by experience. Nobody can tell you. All they can teach you is how to get past them. Emotions have a positive side. They add romance to life. They're important for communication. They humanize the world. They create relationships. They give excitement to bored people. They create fun. They stimulate consumption, show us where we're unconscious. They entertain us, stimulate libido, and they motivate us. But emotions have a downside. And this is the interesting thing, because most people who are attached to being emotional want all the positives, but none of the negatives. Sadly, the reality is they come hand in hand. Emotions cause all conflict. They consume 90% of the body's energy. They confuse and distract us. They block love. They create mental health problems. They cause human suffering. They stimulate religious fanaticism, produce nothing sustainable, are unstable and changeable. They are self-obsessive and they're lies. So that's the most important thing to realize. Emotional transparency is trying to get past emotion. Most people will want to try and build the positive emotion and negate the negative. That's impossible. In fact, the people who have the most mental health problems are most attached to positive emotions. So the first of this video series, this video we're talking today, is about the first step in creating emotional transparency, being able to see through emotions whenever you choose. The first step is think balance. So anything you can't see the balance in is running your life. And anything you can't see the balance in is called an emotion. It's running you, and worse, it's running your life. All opinions are lopsided thoughts. So let's think about that. Opinions, when people say this is right and this is wrong, come from a perception that something can be good without a bad. Now, here's a triangle. Now it becomes a small triangle in my perception, and now it becomes a big triangle in my perception. Now it's an upside down triangle in my perception. So our perception sees the world and labels it with these emotional tags in order to define it. We see things wrong, we see things bad, we see things sad, we see things stoic, and we see things angry. But very rarely do we recognize that in every wrong there's a right, every bad there's a good, every sad there's a happy, every down there's an up, every angry there's a peaceful, and for every stoic there's a light-hearted. In other words, our senses pick up the world in half-truths. So in every angry situation there's a peaceful situation. There cannot be imbalance in this universe. Nature will not allow it. Nature seeks a balance in all things. So the reason we're attached to our emotions is because emotions motivate us. And this is a very interesting realization. There are little emotions and there are big emotions. So there are big motivations, which are big emotions, and there are little motivations, which are little emotions. So a highly motivated person will say, I've got to have it, I should have it, or I need to have it. These are very motivated and these are very stimulated states of the human condition. And they all come from high levels of emotion. Beyond those levels of emotion are want to, desire to, choose to, and love to. And when a person gets to a state of love to, what they're basically saying is, I am not motivated to do this. I have no emotion about it. I am ambivalent about it. And when the outer world becomes ambivalent, in other words, when our emotions are no longer attached to something, the inner voice, the real level of inspiration starts to rise. And so there's a vast difference between the motivated individual and the inspired individual. The inspired individual has no motivation. They're doing it because they love it. The motivated individual is doing it because they have an emotion about it. One is sustainable, one isn't. The interesting thing is we can have as much motivation to go away from something as we can towards it. So a lot of got-to people are motivated to get towards positive and away from negative, or towards something good and away from things bad. We can't be motivated on one side of that equation without being motivated on the other. In other words, there are people who would like to run away from evil and run towards good. They believe that there is a place they can go where evil doesn't exist, or they running towards success without pain. But they believe that they can go to an all positive situation by getting away from an all negative. And the more motivated they are, which means the more emotional they are about that, the more deluded they are. Imbalance is delusion. We have love and inspiration at one end of the equation, and we have huge levels of emotion at the other. So let's look at this. An emotion comes from the perception that there can be a series of 7 positives with only 1 negative, and that's called a got-to state of mind. The same got-to state of emotional mind can come when we've got 7 negatives and only 1 positive. So inspiration, on the other hand, comes from the perception of balance. 1 positive equals 1 negative. When that happens, the ego is dead. Emotions can't exist in a balanced state of mind. And at that point, the inner voice speaks louder than the outer. The outer voices are emotion, the inner voices are inspiration. So emotion to inspiration, and we can move emotion to inspiration anytime we want. We can't reduce our level of Neanderthal emotion. In other words, every human being on earth has the capacity to be a Neanderthal, to be highly got to, highly motivated, highly emotional. The question is, are they willing to choose a different paradigm? The different paradigm that makes emotion transparent is the sense of balance. If you can see as much positive as negative in a situation, you will rise up from got to level to a should level. If you can see the balance in the should level, you'll rise up to a need to level. If you can see the balance in the want to level, you'll rise up to the choose to, to the desire. And then you'll rise up to the choose to level, and of course then to the love to. So the more balance we see in a situation, the more inspired we are. The less balance we see in a situation, the more Neanderthal or motivated we are. This is Chris Walker. Have a great day, and remember, make emotions transparent. E.T. Phone home.